Honestly speaking, it was really a setback for the LA Chargers when Mike Williams announced retirement last week. Indeed, he was not exactly expected to be the prime 1,000-yard season version of himself, but he was expected to be a solid player in the rotation, and the Chargers were looking for stability in this position. Offensive coordinator Greg Roman admitted that the team will indeed have to fill the void in his absence. So now clearly we have a gap in the WR room. Like the whole scenario has been changed. So let's get into what the Chargers' 53-man roster could look like with a seismic change in the WR room. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Chargers. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. So here's my 53-man roster prediction for the Chargers. Let me start with the position, quarterback. The Chargers have currently 3 quarterbacks: Justin Herbert, Taylor Heinicke, and Trey Lance. Roman was asked directly if there was a quarterback competition between Taylor Heinicke and Trey Lance for the backup job behind Justin Herbert. He called it a good, healthy competition. Heinicke was Herbert's primary backup last year, as Easton Stick was QB3 emergency quarterback. Regardless of the backup spot winner, the Chargers keeping 3 would make sense under the game day rules. The third quarterback would count against their initial 53, but not their game day roster. As far as running back is concerned, we have 4 on the roster: Omarion Hampton, Najee Harris, Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins. You know, the Chargers placed RB Najee Harris on the NFI list last week after his July 4th weekend fireworks accident. All we know as of now through his agent is that he sustained a superficial eye injury. However, HC Jim Harbaugh confirmed that Harris is in the building for team meetings and other non-practice activities. But as of this moment, there's not enough known information on the Harris injury to suggest that he'll miss regular season time. That would require the Chargers keeping him on the NFI list at the time they make the 53-man roster. If that were the case, Harris would miss the first 4 games. For the time being, I'm approaching this as more of a missing training camp matter than anything affecting his regular season. On Monday, the Chargers opted to sign running back Nyheim Hines after it was reported that he worked out for the team. For now, I'm opting to keep the 4 running backs the same. Until there's a more negative update on the status of Harris, Hines is likely competing for a practice squad role. Remember the fact that he hasn't played in the NFL in 3 years, so this feels more like a preseason filler than a true regular season body. Okay, now moving to the main position, wide receiver. Currently, the Chargers have 6 receivers: Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Jalen Reagor. Reagor looks the clear beneficiary of Williams' retirement. With Williams on the roster, Reagor would have been on the border as a wide receiver 7. Now, he's pretty clearly leaning towards the inside of the 53-man roster. The top WR trio of the Chargers, in terms of the slot X and Z roles, is now Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Trey Harris. No questions to be asked of that group there in terms of making the roster. The point to note here is that special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken mentioned Darius Davis, who is also a kick returner, as a core part of their operations yesterday. He included Davis in the group of names like long snapper Josh Harris, kicker Cameron Dicker, and punter J.K. Scott. While there will always be returner competition in camp, Davis's spot feels safer now. If I talk about fullback, currently I have only 1 on the roster, and that is Scott Matlock. Right now, it feels like UDFA Steve-O Klotz is more of a practice squad candidate than true competition for Scott Matlock. That could change when the pads come on this week. But Matlock holds down his spot for at least this season. The defensive versatility he can bring to the roster, even if the coaching staff doesn't want him playing there a lot, is useful for a group that is reworking their IDL rotation. Now, moving to the position, tight end. We have 3 on the roster: Will Dissly, Tyler Conklin, and Oronde Gadsden II. No true surprises here. Both Conklin and Gadsden have impressed as receivers in training camp. Will Dissly is still around to be your primary blocking TE, with a slightly smaller receiving role this year because the Chargers have more flexibility there. This is a spot where they could keep even 4, and I will place Tucker Fisk on the list then. Even if he doesn't make the initial 53-man roster, I'm sure he'd have his fair amount of practice squad elevations and usage. For the time being, I have him in the bubble. The offensive line is pretty straightforward here. Regardless of the center battle outcome, the 5 offensive line starters will be Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, and Joe Alt. Behind them, Trey Pipkins will serve at the primary swing tackle. He's been in that role during camp when Slater missed practice. Jamari Salyer is your primary backup guard, while Andre James is your backup center. 6th-round selection, Branson Taylor stays on the main roster to start his NFL development along the IOL. But the defensive tackle group is undergoing a pretty serious reworking after losing Poona Ford and Morgan Fox in the offseason. Deshaun Hand and Tier Tart will be relied on as your primary DTs. After that, the rotation will lean pretty heavily on players like Justin Eboigbe, Naquan Jones, and Otito Ogbonnia. Of interest to me here is how quickly Jamari Caldwell comes along. He's consistently worked on the 3rd team so far in training camp. As the pads come on, one would assume he comes along pretty quickly. So if he can produce real snaps for the Chargers, as opposed to being more developmental this year, the pass rush and run defense ceiling for this line jumps a little higher. On edge rush position, no mysteries at all. In the first year without Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu will be your top-line pass rushers. Bud Dupree received an extension this offseason as he holds down a more rotational role. Kyle Kennard comes out of the draft as a bit of an older pass rusher, fresh off an SEC Defensive Player of the Year campaign. If he can make a difference early on, the Chargers won't feel the absence of Bosa quite as much. The linebacker room is crowded. For now, the top starting duo is Dion Henley and Denzel Perryman. Junior Colson will rotate in and play special teams, as will Troy Dye. The Chargers lost Nick Neiman as their core special teams linebacker this offseason, and they replaced him with a free agent, Delshon Phillips. That appears to be your 5 at linebacker for the time being. Special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken mentioned Kanai Mauga as someone heavily involved in the installations early on in camp. He probably doesn't have a roster spot available to him, but Mauga is definitely a name to watch if there is an injury or even as a practice squad fixture. Syracuse UDFALB Marlowe. Wax could also be a practice squad name to watch here. The cornerback group faces a decent uncertainty past the top 3 names. In some order, Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart, and Dante Jackson are a starting trio to speak. Keep in mind that safety Derwin James will also play a lot of slot corner. He played there frequently enough to earn an All-Pro nomination there instead of safety. Longtime roster fixture Jaser Taylor and 7th-round pick Trickwise Bridges miss the cut for me, but could still very easily make the roster. Taylor is probably the pick between those 2 names if the Chargers want a little bit more help in the slot, as they have a number of bigger boundary corners in the 5 names I listed. The safety rotation Jesse Minter loves to use is his trio of James, Alohi Gilman, and Elijah Molden. Molden was recently activated off of the PUP list earlier this week, following recovery from a torn meniscus and broken leg. The Chargers missed him at the end of last season after he was injured in the Patriots game. RJ Mickens holds the 4th spot for now. The other contender here is Tony Jefferson. Jefferson played critical snaps for the Chargers towards the end of last season as injuries piled up in the secondary. But with how flexible they showed they could be with his usage and practice squad elevations last season, I think they'd prioritize their 6th-round pick here. Moving to the last position, specialists. No surprises here. No punter or kicker competitions to speak of. As Ryan Ficken said, continuity of the key 3 fixtures from last season remains intact. So I am adding Cameron Dicker, Josh Harris, and J.K. Scott to the list.